Alrighty, everybody, welcome to today's class. It is 3:26 at 3:05 p.m. I appreciate the student that came in today, Isaac. I appreciate you. We're getting his VPN situation sorted out, but what I wanted to do is kind of run through everybody's homework and let you know what I'd like to see on the next iteration. So basically, I'm just going to go down the line from in order from organic modeling, the first class and the second class. So we're going to start with Lynn Wren. Let's go over here. Let's open this up. And if y'all have any questions, you can always message me on Discord or Facebook or any of that stuff. So feel free to. Alrighty, so this is a very, very, very small image. So we're gonna need much larger images because I'm not able to be there right next to you. Okay, so let's go through this real quick. Let's get a nice pink out of there. Okay, so this is looking okay. It all looks flat though. I would like to see some overlapping on this. Okay, and make sure that you're using crease. This is so small I can't even write. Make sure you're using crease PG on this so that all the sides are nice and clean. I would use a crease level of maybe 1 to 2 and dynamic at 5. Okay, just to get the look. Hopefully you haven't actually committed any of the subdivisions. Okay, and also put it up next to the image and literally trace it while you're sculpting it. So put it in Zbrush, you know, and then use a see-through and literally trace the flower. Make sure you're zoomed up. You can use Photoshop like I am and zoom up real close so that you can get a good view and then trace it. Okay. Other than that, these what are they, stamens or whatever they're called, those are looking really, really good. This a little bit more blocky, and thicker as well. All right. Make sure it's not too thin because then it will be you won't be able to print it, right? So make sure you have a nice definitive edge around here. Maybe you do, but the image is so small I can't see. So you need to make larger images. Make sure they're at least, you know, 960 wide, because I think these are 216 wide. So this is really, but you get the point. Okay. So here's the next one. Okay. So this is looking pretty good. I like that. I like that. It's sitting on there pretty nice. Here. Okay, let's get that concept art out. I'm rebirth. Pew, pew. Okay, so let's copy and paste. All right. All right, so these are much better to use to kind of critique with. So I know this is your first time. This is obviously our first remote class, but the larger the image, the easier for me. Okay, so okay, so her foot right here, go above 1. Her foot right here is doing this, right? So you can put on the other side, you can connect that that vine and have her foot resting, because it should be, if this is a skull and she's up here and she's got one leg here and it's pointing that way, and then the other one should be on the other side pointing that way with a vine kind of supporting that. Okay, and then there's a head. Okay, so make sure you do that, because on yours, hers is like right here in front. Okay, so just move it over to the side and rest it on a vine. Move it to the side and rest it on a vine. Okay. Let's see, what else do you have, Lynn Wren? Alrighty, so far from an impression, this is looking really good. Like overall impression, the balance, the way the vines are acting, the base. Let's add some sub D and crease PG. Okay, because I don't want to look at an octagon. It's not going to be an octagon in the end. It's going to be more smooth, right? But overall impression, this is looking really, really, really good. I'm liking all this. This star right here, I would break up. There's just too many coming together, and it's drawing the eye a bit too much, because it's like X marks the spot, right? So, oops. Okay. So we need to break that up. See if it was me. It just looks like a starfish. You can see how everything, like, I'm not looking at anything else but right here. So we need to break this up. You can use the slice brush. Let me show you in Zbrush. Okay. So go here. We are going to elongate this. And I'm just going to Dynamesh it real quick. Dynamesh. Okay, so let's say this is your, and I'm going to duplicate it. And we're going to put a little star together. Okay, so I'm just going to rotate. Boom. Rotate. And then one more, because I think you have something like this. And even if so, we'll just complicate it. Okay, so this is our conjoined vines, and we want to separate these, right? So let's go down in subdivision level, because this is pretty large, and there we go. Okay, so boom, 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 boom. And it's obviously not going, let me sculpt this a little bit just so we can get a little more organic form, because if I cut this with it looking so geometrical, then it'll just, no matter what, it's going to look awkward. So vine, 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 vine. Boom, 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 boom. All right, it's a beef tendon. Okay. So you can use the slice brush. It's all dependent on your camera, and you cannot use it with subdivision levels, and you cannot use it in symmetry. All right, but you have slice curve here. All right, so BS, where is it? BSI, like MSI, but BSI. So let's show you what it does. Redynamesh. So we have the gradient again, and the rule is still the same, and boom, right? So here, boom, boom, and I'm tapping Alt to create a curve, right? So it'll go in a straight line, and then if I tap Alt, it'll make a curve. If I tap twice, it'll make a corner, okay? And I'm just tapping Alt. All right, so let's say I want to split these all apart, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into geometry. I'm going to go to Dynamesh, and I'm going to turn groups on. So now whenever I Dynamesh this thing, all these are now separated and whole. Okay, so this method is what I would use to break all this up. okay? And move it apart from each other. Move these things apart from each other because it's just making an X and no one can look anywhere else. All right, too much of an attention grabber. All right, other than that, good job. Good job, good job, good job. Let's see. Low key. What's going on, sister? We'll get to yours next since you're here. Alrighty. Let's see. Where are you? Low key is freshman. Section 2. Let's see. Nathaniel. David. Man, I miss you guys. Corinne. I don't see any homework here from you. Do you have anything for me, Loki? I'm going to take that as a no. Alrighty, so let's go back. Alrighty, so next is Sunny. Alrighty, let's open these up. New tab, open a new tab, open a new tab. Alrighty, so Sunny, copy image. Let's go through here and group these up and hide it. We'll put that there too. Okay. Alrighty, so let's take a look. And let's take a look at the concept art. Did I get rid of that? Where is it? There it is. So we'll just keep this over here. Okay. So she's going to be a little bit larger. Okay. Your proportion and ratio for this is a little bit off. See how much larger she is on here? And how small yours is in comparison. So the first thing we need to do is we need to fix our proportions to this, right? If this is the ratio that you have, let's get a little bit more accurate. So from there to here, right? If these are your ratios, they should kind of be split a little bit more. Almost. It's not, let's see, how much is it? Yeah, she's going to be a little bit larger. So in Maya, you can go to the root and you can increase that size in X, Y, and Z. It shouldn't, as long as you're going up, it shouldn't break the rig. So, yeah, so you need to fix your proportions and then you'll be able to get a much more accurate representation of this pose because it's kind of off to the side and she needs to be a little bit more to the center, and I think we may need to rotate the skull a little bit more because it's so subtly not straight. It's just like just a little. We need to be a little bit more aggressive with that. All right. Let's see what you got next. All right. Copy image. Okay. Let's get this over here and go back. Alrighty. So for this one, everything is the construction's okay, but everything's flat. Okay. Remember, we need to, if we're looking at if this is your pedal and we're looking at it from the side, mine would look like that. Or let me get the same. Mine would look like that. And so in the end, it's not going to look like popsicle sticks, right? It's going to look like a flower. So make sure that all these are going in. You have the petals and all that, but it actually goes into a fleshy bit of the flower. So make sure that this is represented. I mean, like I know there's lots of stuff going on. I know maybe you're trying to get a new computer and plenty of things going on right now. But we need to do a little bit more research on what is a flower, because if someone says, hey, I need you to sculpt a flower and needs to look like this or like that, or it needs to be that or this, then I'm going to research the life of that flower. And I'm going to understand where things are coming from, what happens when it dies, all these things, because you need to be a little bit of a scientist, curious about how things work and how you can represent that best as an artist. Whether you're going to go into sculpting or animation or game design, that is an essential quality you need to develop. Because it's not, some people have it, some people don't, but you can always develop it. So let's go to your next one. Oh, and this one, the eyes need to be a little bit larger. Again, trace, get in here and literally trace that. You see how thin that is? And then how bulky yours is, especially right here where it's, your petals and everything are intersecting. We need to finesse this a bit more. And your nose needs to be an upside down triangle, and it needs to have one of these stamens going through it. And this face is, again, not straight up and down. It's going to be on a sexy curve, okay? 2-to-1 ratio. All right? One curve takes up 2, and the last one only takes up 1. So make sure you're exercising that in most of your curves. Okay. Let's take a look at the next one. Alrighty. Boom, boom. Okay. So this is looking pretty nifty. Come on now. Get up in there. There we go. This. Oh, come on. This right here, we're going to need to fix. Right? And we shouldn't see the end. It should be coming from the earth and wrapping around. Okay? From the earth, wrapping around. Okay? Especially this. From the earth. Okay, you're missing your petals. Make sure you put those in. This type of vine work needs to be the same color so I can see what's going on. And you have a few more things that you need to put in here, especially with the thorns and all that. Okay. And again, I understand there's a lot of things going on. So we're going to have a bit of adjustment to what's going on with the world and how we're conducting this class. And I understand that and, accounting for it. But on the next one, we need to have a little bit more focus and a little bit more done. Okay. So, and again, the base should be sub D, 5, crease PG, like 2. Okay, crease level 2. Let's take a look at the sword and make sure you dynamically subdivide all the other stuff. You can just isolate this blade, right, using Control Shift. Okay, and then let me show you here. All right, so let's say this is your blade. Well, let's say this is your blade, this is your handle, and or your guard, and this is your handle, right? So if I want to separate the blade from everything else, I'll Control Shift and click, and it'll hide everything else, right? And then I'll go make sure if you're, hold on one second. Let me go. So here, boom, let's say these are the sides of your blade in case they are polygrouped, right? So what I'm going to do is click this and then Control Shift A. Control Shift A, and it will ensure that it's bringing up everything that's associated with it. And then I'm going to go to Split and Split Hidden. And so now my guard and my handle are separate from my blade. And now that this is separated, I can start adding dynamic subdivisions and all that stuff. Okay. And it's not working because it's Dynamesh. But anyway, yeah, but other than that, good job. Alrighty. Who else is in here? Who else is in here? Purple Panda. Who's Purple Panda? I gotta start using your names, yo. Purple Panda, who are you? Purple Panda, who are you? Let's see. Alrighty. David Marquez, you are next. Let's group all this. Group all that and turn. Okay. All right. Copy image. Alrighty. So, I'd like a few more. Let's see. Did you only gave me one shot? Okay. So let's take a look at the concept art. Okay. So her leg. Let's get this here. There we go. Let's take, just observe the leg a bit. All right. Yours is right here. It should be on the other side of the skull, possibly resting on a vine or a hole in the skull, however you want to do that. And her body trajectory, yours is straight up and down. The character's is a bit more curved. Okay. And that's why I was saying, bend at the hip. So you don't have to, because your femur is going over the crest of your hip. And that's not going to happen. I warned this over and over again in class. So make sure that you bend from this particular handle so that you can bend the hip forward. Because your femur doesn't go over your hip. It doesn't go past your hip. Your lumbar flexes and does that so that your leg appears as if it's going beyond the crest of the hip. But you're going to have a horrible, horrible time fixing all this if you don't fix it now. And then, yeah, so I'm not sure why the leg's going that way, but we need to fix that. And then we need to have the arm out in front of us. Okay, just like that. Whatever that is. I'm not good at drawing. But yeah, we need to readjust this arm because it looks like it's something like this as opposed to out and curiously reaching for something. Okay, so we need to fix that. Let's see what else we got. Copy image. Alrighty, so if you go to my YouTube, all right, which you should be subscribed to already. Okay, I create this flower step by step, which I think you need to watch because this looks doesn't look anything like the concept art. Right, just in basic shape, it doesn't look like it. You have leaves that are out here, out there, out there. They're not going anywhere. Meaning there should be some fleshy bit that it inserts into, and we don't see the beginning or the beginning of these petals. We shouldn't see those. And it has nothing to attach to, so it's not going to print. So we need to make sure that they're going into the meat of the flower as it's attaching to the stem. Okay, this thing needs to change shape drastically. Here, we need to have much bigger eyes and a upside down triangle with one of these poking through it. Okay, should look more like a skull as opposed to what you have here. Right? Let's see, what do we got next? Copy image. Okay, and on this one, we can't have these things out nowhere, coming from nowhere, right? These need to be coming from the ground like vines do. They have to originate from soil to thrive. Okay, so make sure that we do that. Okay, coming from the ground. Also add dynamic subdiv. All right, and yeah, go, maybe 4 to 5, whatever your computer can handle, because I keep forgetting that y'all are on your own computers now. So at least before you send it to me, make sure that it's a dynamic subdiv of 5, because we want the impression of all this stuff. I'm not sure why these are vines are beginning in the sky. Not sure what this is. You're gonna have to clean that up. Yeah, you have a bunch of beginnings just out in the open. So they need to come from the ground, or at least have the impression of that coming from the ground. God, I love water. Love water. All right, the base here should be dynamic subdiv as well. I don't want to see octagons. Make sure you're using your crease PG. And make sure you're taking care of all that, okay? Your flowers are too small. So hopefully you haven't committed them yet. So hopefully you're still in nano mesh. But we need to increase the size of these probably by 100%. Okay? They're just too small. Again, you have vines beginning from nowhere. They need to at least have the impression that they're coming from within the skull and wrapping around, and your flower is not placed either. Okay, so let's make sure we have all of that done by let's see, by Tuesday. Need it done by Tuesday. Okay, who do we have here? David, what's going on, brother? How are you? Okay, we're gonna get your homework done since you're here. Okay, where are you? Okay, David. So how's it going over there, brother? Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm using my phone right now, and it's a little bit finicky because my computer doesn't have like the microphone or anything like that.
Oh, okay. No worries. No worries. Are you watching on your computer and talking on your phone? Or?
No, I'm watching on my phone and talking on my phone.
Oh, okay.
So if you hear like a fan going off, it's because I'm in the middle of cooking as well.
Oh, damn! What you cooking, dude?
Basic spaghetti.
I know that's been one of my staples lately.
Yeah.
Alrighty, David. So let's take a look at this flower. It's looking pretty good. We need to work on these little, whatever those stamens are, or whatever they're called. We need to get a little bit more of a coffee bean type feel. So let me demo that for you real quick. And then hopefully that'll help you out. Okay, so let's Q sphere this. And let's elongate it. So boom. Boom. Elongate it a little bit. We're going to squeeze the bottom a bit and kind of taper that out. Something like that, almost like an upside down triangle, right? With a little dome. And then we're going to BZM. We're going to hover over an edge. We're going to bevel, edge loop complete. We're going to do something like that. And then we're going to extrude in. So we're going to go extrude, poly loop, and then we're going to extrude that in. And then we're going to go to the side, BMV, get a big brush, and kind of just, doesn't matter where it goes, right? We just need a big brush, so it's a big change. And then we can press W, put it in the center, and send it back home if we need to. But then whenever we press D, we've got the little bean looking thing that we're looking for. Okay, so we can dynamic subdiv 5 and then crease level 2, and then we've got what we're looking for. Okay, so after that, you just need to add a cylinder to the bottom. Let's see. And for that, we can just rotate it. We can insert cylinder. We can Q cylinder Y it. Make it a little bit longer, a little smaller, a little bit longer.
And that bean shape is only for the hero flower, right?
Yeah.
That bean. Okay.
Yeah. And then something like that. We crease polygroups. Crease PG, and then when we press D, there we go. You can put that up there so you get that sexy curve, right? 2-to-1 ratio.
Okay.
There we go.
I forgot about that bean shape.
Mm-hmm.
My bad.
No worries. No worries. Lots of shit's going on. So, but yeah, that. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Totally understand what's going on. I mean, I totally understand that homework's not what it would have been if we were together and actually doing this and not dealing with starving. So, totally get it.
Yeah, honestly, all this actually makes me miss going to class in school.
Right? Same here. And so we're going to bring this down like that. So we just need to change the shape of the eye. It should have a flat bit on each side, I believe. And then go up a little bit more Punisher on the skull. And then you'll have the stamens and all that. The flowers, again, I would set those up in ZBrush with the curve already established to it, and then kind of move it around. Let me show you that real quick, because I'm sure a lot of people... and I have a YouTube video all about this. So
I'll probably find it then, because I have you on YouTube. So
yeah.
Well, I have you on like every
Right.
media.
So there we go. Something like that. Something like this. Okay. Something like that. There we go. We're going to add, I'm going to go ZM. I'm going to go insert. I'm going to go multiple edges so it's a little bit more even. Okay. And then we don't have to really worry about the proportions or any of that. And we can go back and we can polygroup flat island. So whenever we crease later, it'll, or crease PG, it'll be nice and clean. And if you need to change the color, what I'm doing is I'm holding down the pen, and then I'm tapping Alt to choose a different color. So sometimes you might want that. Alrighty. So now I'm gonna just crease PG, and now when I press D, oops, we missed one. Alrighty, so we're going to do the same here. We're going to do it in symmetry. Boom, choose a different color. Boom, choose a different color. And now we've got it. And so now we can crease PG, press D, and we can go down to 1 or 2 and go to about 5, whatever your computer can handle. Okay. And so now I'm going to go to array mesh. Array mesh. We're going to go, I think it was like 16 or something like that. 16, 14. We're going to rotate it in the Z 360 degrees. And then we're going to transpose lock position, bring it out, something like that. And then from here, I still have symmetry on, and I can kind of get that established. Right, and then that's going to be much more of a flower, and then we can turn off extrude, make mesh, and then I'm going to use BMT, which is move topological, and that way it's only going to affect one petal at a time, right?
Oh.
Okay, so you can do that, and then also what I would do is I would go on the see-through. Let's see if we can get to the concept art. And boom, like that. Let's go one more right there. And then I would grab this, go to see-through, put this here, and then go to town. Okay, so boom. And you're not trying to get everything correct right now. You're just boom. Okay, that's really, really close. Okay, that's kind of close. This is kind of close. And you're just getting your links first. Right? And I'm using a big brush, so everything's is kind of uniformly uniformly deforming. Yeah. Just trying not to repeat myself, but
BZT tool right now still?
I'm using BMT.
BMT.
BMT, no worries. And then just kind of putting it there. If it is super small, you can kind of grab. Let me get my select BS select rectangle. I can just grab a piece and Control Shift A. Then I can use my transpose, put this here, make it smaller, rotate it, right? So not everything is going to be solved with the move. Sometimes you're going to have to grab a piece, Control Shift A, and really get in here and kind of get it, right? And make sure you're using a big brush size and make sure everything's inserting into the meat of this flower. Don't have anything like floating about, okay? So just stuff like that. And if you need to repeat something, you just grab one, Control Shift A, mask it. I'm holding Control and tapping on the canvas. I'm going to go back here. Bringing everything back, inverting it, W, center, and then I'm just going to drag it out, and it's going to duplicate it and do something like that. Right? And then you can do whatever you need to do after that. So you don't need to like go back and then repopulate the leaves or anything. You can just unmask the leaf you want to repeat, press W, hold Control and Shift, and drag one of these arrows. And it'll repeat and repeat as many times as you need. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, so, we start off just with the coffin pedal, and then we repeated it, and then we committed it, and then before we committed it, we just altered that one petal and made sure we had a nice flower feel to it, right? It's not straight out. It's not all wobbly. It's a gentle curve usually, and it's pretty unanimous around, and then you'll just have little variances of lengths and all that stuff. So if you just take it step by step, instead of mixing the steps together, then the result becomes much cleaner. Okay. Alrighty, let's see. We got that. Okay, and let's get your pose. All right. Let's take a look at the concept art. Okay. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to move, we probably need to increase the ratio between the skull and her, because she looks really, really small. So I'll probably increase her size, and then you'll be able to move this leg on the side of her skull. And you can place a vine here for her leg to kind of rest on. Okay. Other than that, everything's pretty good. I would really, really, let's see, bring this shoulder forward, because whenever you place it down, you're naturally going to move that clavicle forward. So this should probably be like that with the chromium process here. And then that, and then this, and then you'll have a little bit more room for her hand to lay flat on there. Let's see. And whenever you make her larger, it should be a little bit easier to move this leg back as well. Yeah, so I would have to see everything. I can't really see her and the skull like in full picture, so I can't tell you what the ratio of what I would increase it as. But if you click the root and do the XYZ scale, maybe 30% more, maybe. So if it's at 1, maybe 1.3, something along those lines. I don't remember the scaling too much, but you can either shrink the skull if it's easier for you, or you can increase her. As long as you don't shrink her down, then the rig won't break. Okay? But if you increase her, everything should still work. So it's up to you. You can either decrease the skull size or increase her. Up to you.
I would go with the skull just to be safer.
Okay. And boom here, and this is yours, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. First, I gotta say this looks dope. All this is looking dope. All that's looking dope. It looks nice and worn, and it feels like it's been out here for a long time. So you're kicking the boots on that.
Thank you.
All right. So to make it printable, what you need to do is you need to use the inflate brush. Okay.
Okay.
So let me see if I can replicate this and then show you why.
Look for the little pieces that are hanging off the vines.
Yeah, because they need to be printable. So you just need to make them thicker, especially towards the end. Like this, it's a little bit like everything looks great, but it just needs to be bigger. Okay. But yeah, the vines are looking good. All this detail on here. It's definitely going all in the right direction. The skull looks dope. All right. The base, let's subd it. Increase PG. And let's go 5 and crease level 2 to 3. Whichever one looks sexier. Because I just don't want to look at an octagon with sharp angles whenever you have something so well done. All right. The stems on here, you can run an inflate brush over these things since they're already committed. But just make sure that these aren't so thin that whenever they're printed, they just turn to dust. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
So you might have to take some out, but just make it bigger and thicker. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's see, and let's look at the back. Yeah. See, these are little personal touches that I can't teach, that you just need to do as an artist, right? These things I can't teach you. So good job. Looking good.
Yeah.
Looking good. You see, it's just so thin that we're getting dots of geometry. Just make sure that we're fleshing that all in. This is all looking good. It's all flowing. Nothing's really bothering me. This one seems to be coming from nowhere and going nowhere. So take a look at that one. This one's too thin to print. So make sure it's a little bit more robust. Would like to see some vines coming out here, maybe here, maybe one coming from the sword, and then you'll have one wrapping around here so that her leg can rest on it. Okay. And then just make sure you don't make X's. Because whenever you make X's, see, like, as soon as I did that, you're looking at that more than anything else. So don't make an X. Okay?
Okay.
Other than that, great job, brother. Do you have any questions for me? Is there anything I can help you with?
No, I think I was just having trouble with the mini flowers the most. That was those almond-shaped ones. And then the flower petals on the hero flower itself for giving me a hard time, but you already covered it, so.
All right, cool. All right then, brother. Well, enjoy your Pescetti.
Thanks.
And if you have any questions, always reach out, brother. All right?
Okay, thank you.
No, you're very welcome. Oh, and Samurai Jack's all for free on that Adult Swim.
The game?
No,
the show.
Yeah, the show. Mm-hmm. It's all free.
I actually have the whole season of the whole thing of Samurai Jack already.
Oh, okay, awesome. I'm gonna sit down and watch it probably at night. So
it was on sale, so I couldn't pass that up.
Oh yeah, that was such a great show.
I actually have never seen it. I started watching it when I bought it. I just had to trust that it was a great show.
Oh yeah. I've heard.
So far, it is.
Yeah,
I love it.
It is. All right, brother. Well, I'm gonna move on to the next critique. So enjoy your food and hit me up if you need anything.
Sounds good. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome. Alrighty, yaddy. Let's see. Open link, open image. Alrighty. So you also, Addie, need to give me much larger images, please. Okay, because this is just a little bit too small. But with the power of CG. Okay, so let's take a look. Alrighty, so this curve right here is very boring. It's almost a C. So let's either break it up. With something like that, and make sure that the ground is thicker than the end. Okay, so something to break up the C, or you can actually just manipulate it so that it's a let me get this right. Boom. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio. Okay, for the curve. So you have 2 to 1, right? So this one is more of like this, which is a very boring curve. So fix that. We shouldn't have things going beyond the base and underneath the base. So make sure that doesn't happen, and make sure we don't have things just vines growing from air. They grow from soil. So make sure that you bring this back up and maybe back into the soil or something like that. And make sure nothing goes beyond the base. Everything's got to be on the base. Other than that, everything looks really nice. I'm liking where this is going. It looks nice and clean. Start adding the dynamic subdiv. Okay, and then just separate the blade from the handle. I did that in a previous critique. So if you want to watch that, you can watch that. Okay, but it's a very simple process. Just selection tools and split hidden. Let's see. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Alrighty. There we go. Boom. Okay. So we might need to increase the size of these two. I'll probably increase her maybe 15 to 30% so that her ratio is a little bit more towards the, so her ratio is a little bit more closer to the concept art. She's just too small. Too small. And make sure the leg, your hips are over on this side, and they should be a little bit more towards the center. So it actually, whenever you resize this character and get the proportions a little bit closer to the concept art, you'll be able to have her feet on each side of the skull relatively, right? And again, if you need to, you can put a vine to support her her leg right there. Okay. I'm drawing a leg. Okay. So something like that. And it'll be on the other side. Let's go to the next one. Alrighty. So, it's looking pretty good. These all look the same. They may be overlapping each other, but they look very flat. In the last critique, right before this one, I showed David how to create this flower and make it look a little sexier. So I would rewatch that. The eyes, let me just double check. Eyes, circular, triangle, circle, triangle. Right there. Make sure you have one of these in there. A little bit more thin. And overall, this thing should be thicker from front to back. Okay. Other than that, yeah, just everything's so symmetrical. Probably didn't have time to work on this a lot, which is understandable. But let's start using the methods I showed in the previous critique. Okay. Okay, and let me give one word about this. Okay, so it's looking good, looking interested. And all of that, I would change the trajectory. I would have it more like this because she's resting her hand on here. And if you just do that yourself, if you just lean forward and do that, you're going to notice that you're putting your shoulder forward. You're not doing this, right? Because if you do this, you're just going to fall off and lose all of your balance. So you need to stabilize yourself here, activate your core, and then put your feet on each side and flex those along with your glutes and all. Like, that's the reason I'm stressed. Please put yourself in the situation so you know what's going on. So make sure you do that. This foot is broken, so we can't really bend our foot that much. We do have a limitation on that. We can bend the our toes to kind of get that extra arch that we need to get that going, but the actual foot doesn't make a right angle like that. Okay, so we need to kind of bend this a little bit more and use the foot. So I don't think there is a foot handle to kind of curl the foot up. So just plop the foot in there, and then in ZBrush, mask, and then rotate. Okay. And you don't really have to do that until the very end. Well, actually, no, I would rather you do it now so that everything's planned out. So get that going. Put the what should we call it? The hand down. So if you bring this down, bring this shoulder up, then you'll be able to accomplish that. Okay, so because yours is like this, it needs to be that, and then you'll have more than enough room to put that hand down. Okay, but first, what I would do is get the proportions for the skull and the character set, and then readjust the pose. Wrap. Okay. Better than that, good work. And let's have all that done by Tuesday. Okay. Let's see who else is in here. Who's in here? Isaac, Loki, David. All right. Let's see. Sam. Okay. Alrighty. All right, Sam. So if you go 2 critiques back, I show you how to make this flower. Okay, it's going to be for David's critique. Pretty much go step by step. Okay, so what you're missing though is you're missing those little pods, which I show him how to do. Make sure you have the meat of the flower to cover up all this, because this can't just connect in space. There's usually the bit that the petal grows from, right? So make sure we have that and all that good stuff. Okay. The shape of the skull is looking fine. Let's see. Copy image. Alrighty. So pose is looking okay, but we do need to bring this foot this way and have it resting here. Your proportion between skull and character is looking pretty good. And I'm liking that. I'm liking this. Let's look at, oops. Yeah, we need to make sure that the butt is touching the skull. Okay, so remember, don't get all of your bending from like the pelvic floor. Make sure you're getting it from the lumbar. Okay, so I would rotate the lumbar a bit more, and then you'll be able to plop her down and have her butt touching or get much closer, because it's just way too far off according to the concept art. She's pretty much, to me, it looks like she's pretty much sitting on it. She placed her feet down, and then she sat down, and then she leaned forward, and then she put her arm out. Okay, so to me, that's a series of events. So I would try doing that yourself and feeling what that's like. Okay. And then I would probably put the sword in here, just so that you have some reference. It doesn't have to be the actual sword, but a cylinder or something that you can focus her head and her hand towards, because it looks like she's looking this way and she's grabbing something over here. Okay, so put a cylinder in here and have the character and the eyes looking at it. Okay. Caleb, you're here.
Yes.
All right, brother. I'm gonna get you next since you're here. All right.
Sounds good. Take your time.
Thank you, brother. All right. So this is all looking good. I would subdivide it a bit more, Sam. It's subd it a little bit more. This dirt is going beyond the base, so we need to relegate everything within the base. Okay. This base should be a Q cylinder. Was it? Yeah, Z, I think. And then you're just going to flatten it, right? And then you're going to do the sub D and crease PG and crease level. Okay. So make sure you have all that for this base because it looks like looks more like a pancake than an actual base. Okay. Skull's looking good. The weathering's looking good. The flow of these vines is looking good. Yeah, I'm liking all this. Let's take a look at the back. Copy image. Yep. So the only thing is that it's a little bit too straight, up and down. I'll probably tilt it a little bit more because it's just a little bit too straight. Make sure you don't have any X's going on this, and then you can kind of tame this base a little bit. And the thicker you make this base, and we don't want to make it too thick because you can imagine like a printer takes like 20 hours to do like a head, right? Like a really good quality head. So you don't want to make a base too thick because it's just going to take a super long time just to get a cylinder out. But you do want some type of thickness here so that the ground doesn't look so thick in relation. So just a little bit more finessing of this ground. Make sure you're using the anatomy of a curve, 1 to 2, right? 1 to 2. And make sure you're kind of having the dirt flow like that. Some small veins vines coming from where the sword is coming into would be nice. And then don't forget to add your flowers. Okay. Other than that, Sam, if you have any other further questions or anything I can help you out with, just please let me know. Reach out to me on the Discord. Alrighty. So here we go. Caleb. Where were we? We're at Sam. Yeah. W. All right, Caleb. Is your homework somewhere, or did you just want me to talk about some?
It was just like how to sculpt and probably like position the body on top of the skull, because I was more than likely probably missed that lecture.
Oh, okay. So have you used a rig before?
No, like I'm completely new to this. So I have
Oh,
no
okay.
idea really what to do.
No worries. Let's get it started. All right, so we're going to be going through basically the process that we're at is we pose the character on top of the skull. This week we're going to be putting the skeleton in the skull. Skeleton inside the mesh, and then moving the mesh according to the skeleton underneath. So you only need to worry about the parts I've lectured like usual. So if your arms look all janky and stuff like that, and your legs look all janky, that's fine. We're just worried about what we're lecturing over. So we're posing the character on top of the skull, and then we're getting that pose approved, and then we're bringing it over to Zbrush and putting a skeleton inside of it. So let's see, Maya. Let's see, it's probably in my recent files. Okay, so let's import. objects, base meshes. Female base mesh. Where is it? Oh, no, it's. Forgot where I put this thing. Oh, there it is. Okay, superhero base, female base, right? Okay. Continue. All right, so here's our rig and all this stuff. So, okay, so I'm just gonna go through the very basics. All right, so here is our root. Okay, so if we go here to our channel box, we can go here and we can increase the size. So if we want to increase it a bit more, or I'm sorry, translate the its position, or we can rotate it, or we can globally scale it, something like that. 1, 2, 3, all that stuff. Okay. So if we need to increase the size, it would do that. Let's import a cylinder or a something like this, something relative to what we're doing. So most likely what's going to happen is that your skull's going to be here and your character is going to kind of insert like that. So if we need to see through it, we press 4 and then we can see everything, right? But you can see, like, if I try to select that handle, I have to really, really be precise about it, or else I'll select geometry. So in here you have these lines with triangles. Open up one until you see something like this. Okay, where you have a bunch of blue icons, and you'll have a baseball diamond right here. Okay, so if I unclick that, then no matter how much I click geometry, it won't select it. Okay, so here I can just select the handles, because I'm not looking to select geometry. I'm just looking to select handles, right?
Okay.
So that's a root. So this is, if you got to move the character, make sure you're at the very bottom disk. Don't click the this. Make sure you're clicking the root. Okay, and then it'll move anywhere you want it to. Generally, her butt's going to be touching the bottom of the skull. So we can go here, somewhere around there. And whenever we're talking about the articulation of the spine, the only thing that actually bends is your neck and your lumbar. Were you able to watch a lecture this week?
Yes, so I have.
Okay, so I went through the lumbar and the cervical spine. So cervical spine is your neck, lumbar is everything below your rib cage that isn't attached to a rib. Okay, so those are the only parts that are super, super flexible. So that's kind of like where we want to bend things as well. So we can grab these handles. What I would do is kind of start with here, get this foot, press W, bring it up here, bring it over to the side, all this good stuff. This ball right here controls the knee and what direction it's going in. And let's press 5 so we can kind of see what's going on. And then we can kind of move this out where it needs to go. And we might need to increase her size a bit more. So we'll go to global scale. We'll go to 2. We'll go 1.25. Something like that. Okay. Let's see. So now we can get this character. We can get this foot on this side. All that stuff. Right. So you know QWER, right? All that stuff in Maya. Okay. So so now we can grab this. We can bring her butt down, stuff like that. Here we just use the rotations that's available to us. Sometimes it's going to break, like there. You see how it's popping?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just going to happen. It's just going to happen. You can try rotating it or trying to get into a better place, but really you're going to have to resculpt so much anyways that this is the least of your problems, right? So here we just want to kind of get that going, something like that. And we're just sketching in the pose as we go, right? So Boom. So now I know that I need to rotate this back. Something like that. She's looking at the sword. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in here just something to represent a sword. Something like that. So let's see. Boom. Something like that. Okay. So now instead of her just looking out into nowhere, we've got her looking at the sword. Right? Boom. You just get that. All that good stuff. Right? Rotate it from the base of the neck. You can kind of rotate this a bit more. You can move it as well if you need to. Not too much. You don't want to break the spine. Here. That type of thing. So forth and so on. Right? So I'm just grabbing these handles and WERing them. Whatever option is available to me. Usually it's only going to be rotate. But that's what I would do for this. Just bring that out. Maybe right here. Right there. Rotate this. And then we pretty much got most of the pose. Right? Something, let's just say this is what we're looking for. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to bring this over into Zbrush. So, rotate that out. Something like that. Okay, so now I need to turn this back on so I can select geometry. Right, so I turn that back on. And I'm just worried about the body. Right, if you want to grab the eyes, you can grab the eyes too. So you just shift click and you'll grab the eyes. And then File, Export Selection. Down here, make sure you choose OBJ. If that isn't available to you, you go Modify. What is it? What is it? Windows General Editors. Where's the plugin manager? Settings, preferences, plugin manager. So go into plugin manager, and you can just click both of these, auto load, but you can also go down here and try to find OBJ. Where is it? It's usually at the bottom somewhere. Yeah, OBJ export MTL, and you just auto load it, close it, and then you'll be able to file export selection. Make sure it's OBJ. Put it in wherever you need to put it. I'm going to put it on my desktop for right now. We're just going to call it a test. Press enter. So it's exported it. I'm going to go into ZBrush. I'm going to make sure you put it in a mesh. I would just choose this Polymesh 3D. It's already a Polymesh. You see, we already have everything. So you don't need to press it again. And then you're going to import, and you're going to desktop test. Right, and so now we've got it in ZBrush.
Okay.
All right, and then stuff like this. It's just part of the game. Right, so here you just smooth it all out. Wow, that really twisted, didn't it?
Question?
Hold on one second. PIN, and just fill it back up. But yeah, you'll be sculpting on this. So as soon as the pose is approved, then you'll go through this. And it's so weird why it's doing that. So over here, see if we can kind of unwrap that. There we go. So for some reason, it just automatically rotates it a bunch. So you just have to re-rotate it. And then it'll fix itself. So you don't have an arm that's been twisted as it goes down. What's up, Gab?
My question is, will this model be the body and the head for the final project, or are we going to use the female head we made earlier this semester?
Yeah, we'll be using the head that we've already sculpted. If you go here, you go to polygroups, auto groups. It should have had UV information, but auto group with UV, and then you can control shift click the head, the mouth, and you can hide it while you're.
Same thing. Are we going to do teeth and inside the mouth soon?
I'm sorry, the teeth.
Like teeth or
Well, we're putting a skeleton in here. We're putting a skeleton in here that already has teeth.
Oh.
So we'll need to put that in there. Okay. So if you need to work on any of these in particular, Caleb, you can just control shift and click. Okay. But yeah. Was there any other question or anything else you wanted me to clarify?
Is there anything?
Oh, I'm talking to Caleb for 1 second.
The last thing I would just ask if you could do is like show me how to do like the flower that's on like the.
Yeah, that'll be in this video.
I think he said it's on his YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, it's on my YouTube channel, but I also did one for David like 3 critiques ago. So I'm going to post this video up, and then y'all can kind of like go through it and see. But you'll see me going through the flowering and creating it.
Okay.
Okay.
That's helpful.
Alrighty.
That's what I also was gonna ask. Like these videos that you're doing, they will be posted.
Oh yeah. All these live sessions will be posted.
Yeah, and they're on your. Are they on? What they said? They're on your forum or on you YouTube?
I'm going to post it to the forum.
Okay.
It'll either be a download link or it'll be a like a YouTube link or something. Most likely this is going to YouTube.
Awesome.
Yeah. So just make sure you subscribe. Shotgun Scream on YouTube. Firearm
Like
Yell.
Scream
As
or
in yell.
scream?
As in yell.
Okay.
Right. Anything else, Caleb?
So I know on campus we saved all of our things to like the OneDrive.
Oh.
So at home, I'm trying to like access the OneDrive and I can't get anything. So a lot of my assets are just on campus. But for the most part, I have all of my assets on my PC at home because I would like email them to me. The only one that I don't have is, well, the one with the skull in the ground with the mud covering that. So if you don't mind, if you could do like a quick rundown of how to like recreate that.
Oh, yeah, sure. So my dog's trying to get attention. Princess, quiet. All right, so we're going to make a polymesh 3D. We're going to Q cylinder Y. This is going to be our base, right? So boom. Make it probably a little bit bigger. We're going to press D on our keyboard, and we're going to go to geometry, crease polygroups. Okay.
Oh, you want us to do that with all of with the ones we have on our computers, because we did like a normal pentagon or hexagon. So do you want us to?
Well, that's what this is. So if you just press D, that's what it becomes.
So do you want to do that, or do you want to?
Oh yeah, that's the reason I'm showing it to you. So here, make it a little bit thinner, all that stuff. You go crease level 2 or 3, dynamic about 5, about 2, something like that, right? So it looks smooth and all that. Next thing you can do is you can pretty much just duplicate this. So over here, subtool menu, you can just duplicate it or Control Shift D, bring it up, make it a little bit smaller, and then that's going to be where the bounds of your dirt, right? So that's there. And then next you want to load the skull tool that I gave you. It's the link is in the forums.
Yeah.
Projects. Boy. Was it under brushes? No, it's under base meshes. Projects. Base meshes. The male skull. Boom. Right there. ZTL. Male skull. Go back here. Insert it. So insert the skull. You can go down to low subdivision level. So Shift D. And that way it's a little bit probably easier for your computer to handle. Go Shift D. Yeah, so it goes down in subdivision level unless you dynameshed it, and then it won't. And then you unify it, and then and then that way it's the same size as the cylinder, and then you're just squeezing it down, putting it into place. Boom, boom. Make it a little bit smaller.
Will it be that big?
Gab. You do know I'm a professional, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so something like that.
The first teacher I had who used Discord.
Boom, boom, boom. Something like that, right? Maybe a little bit more. Something like that. Okay. And then you can hold Alt and click back on the dirt. You can go here. You can apply that that dynamic geometry, dynamic subdiv, dynamic apply. Okay. And then you can dynamesh it. So you can dynamesh it. It'll give you this warning. Do you want to free subdivision levels? You say no. And then you can use your clay buildup, and you can kind of start building this up. You might have an issue like this where it's going through the ground. So whenever I stroke up here, it's pulling from the back. I don't want that, right? So what I want is I want to go to brush. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Auto masking, back face masking. So now I can draw on one side all I want, and it won't pull on the other side. Because what will happen is that it'll pull on the other side, and then you'll dynamesh it, and then you'll have a bunch of holes in there. So you, because the mesh is so thin. So you don't want that, okay? So you can bring that back. What I would do is get a big brush size. Get a nice flow going, right?
Is there a way you want the dirt to look, or you just want to randomize it?
Just artistically randomize it. Yeah, there's no... most of the vines are covering up that information. But I definitely don't want, most of this to be dirt, right? But some type of thing to support the head so it's not falling over, something like that. Make sure it's not a dome. Make sure it doesn't look boring, all that stuff. Just the anatomy of a curve.
What type of dynamesh, or what kind of number do you want us to use dynamesh? Because I think 256 might be too much information for my...
Whatever you can handle. Whatever. Just make sure you don't go too high too soon, because I'm going to stay here until I've placed all the vines in and all that other stuff. And so just sketching that in, something like that. Something that's going to support the vines that I'm going to put on here later. Some type of this going over here, just so we don't have this open mouth with nothing in it, like it's been sunk into the ground, all that good stuff. Fill in this hole here. There's really no reason to have that. See if you can get in here, fill in that dirt as well, so you can solo it out and kind of fill in this dirt, bridge that right here, and just make sure that it's in there, right? Because whenever we boolean these things together, we don't want a mesh right next to a mesh, and then we're trying to boolean it, which means it's subtracting itself or adding itself together. And if it's so close but never touching, then it's just going to crash. So we want to make sure that when things are interacting, that they're fully interacting. They're not just laying on top of each other, but they're penetrating one another. Okay. So that's how I would get the skull and the dirt started. Right. It only took like what, like 2-3 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, very fast.
Yeah. Very, very, very fast. Okay.
Is it? You want to see the default number for Dynamesh?
No, just whatever your computer can handle. Just make sure you don't go too high too quick. Make sure you build up as you go along.
Yeah, I'm asking. The 256 is probably the highest I had, and it froze my computer.
Okay. Yeah. So you just want to use something below that. Just use your own intuition. Yeah. All right. What else can I help you with, Caleb?
Real fast. So you used to get the female body. You used Maya as the program, correct?
The rig. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. It works only in Maya. Mm-hmm.
So to get that, is there like a trial we could use to? So
Yeah, you have a free student version for 3 years that you can get. You need to just type in Maya 2020 or 2019 student. It'll give you a link. You go in there, you give them a picture of either your transcript or your ID, and usually within 4 to 8 hours they approve you, and you can download the entire Autodesk suite for free for 3 years.
Okay, awesome. That's amazing, actually.
Mm-hmm. I've never paid for Maya, not once. So because I've just been an instructor, so it's always been available to me. So that's what I would do, so that you have access to that. Zbrush, there's a VPN thing that you gotta log into, and Photoshop, I think you can log in through your UIW or whatever it is. But those are the only 3 programs that we're going to be using. Mm-hmm.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. Anything else, brother?
I think that's about it. I think that I got everything to catch me back up.
Alrighty, brother. Alrighty. Well, if you have any other questions, just let me know, and you're free to go whenever you wish. And this will be up, and you can watch it later.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You got it. Thank you so much for the spice on.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Ren, low key, either you here? So I want to make sure I get y'all taken care of and all that while you're here. Ren, low key. Okay. All right, so we're just gonna go through what we're doing. Let's see. We just worked on Samantha's. Let's go to Neo. Alrighty. Okay. All right, Neo. So it's looking pretty good. Let's, if your computer can handle it, it's dynamic subdiv. These vines are just way too thin. We're gonna have to get a bit more variance of size out of these because they're pretty much all the same size. So I would use the inflate brush. You don't have to replace these. Just use the inflate brush and make them a bit thicker. Make sure that they're originating from the ground or from another vine. Don't have them open like that, okay? Or open like this, open like that, okay? Make sure they're not going over the base either. Make sure this base is separate from everything else, and do your crease PG, dynamic subdiv, and crease level. Okay. Let's see. Other than that, it's looking good. Just make sure you place your hero flower. Okay. Because I think you still and your little guitar pick pedals as well. Your pose. Okay. Her chest is so far forward. Okay. So what we need to do is that we need to rotate her chest using this handle right here, and we need to not bend everything at the hip, okay, because there's another controller here that you're not utilizing. So I would zero out these rotations, the chest, the waist, and the hip, zero those back out, and reposition them. Use your lumbar spine to get all of the curve that you need, not your hip. Don't bend at the hip. Bend with the lumbar. Okay, your lumbar is going to be very, very flexible. So use that. Okay. And then I can't really tell the ratio because I don't see everything together, but I think this character may be too small. So increase her size so that she's able to put 1 foot over here and 1 foot on the other side of the skull. Okay. Let's see. Josh. Staring. Let's see. Boom. Okay. Copy image. Alrighty. So, let's take a look. Image is a little low res. All right. A little low quality. So let's boost it up. Try to give me something else because I can't really tell what's going on that much. We're going to have a huge dip here. So see if you can maintain that rib cage because I think you moved this handle particularly forward. So that might be the issue. Hand placement. Let's see what is it on the concept art? Yeah, it's pretty much right next to the sword. So this is looking good. Just wrap it. Make sure you really finesse this. And this goes for everyone in the class. Make sure this hand is properly finessed, that you don't have to do anything else with it because it's a son of a biscuit to get it done in ZBrush as opposed to having a rig like this. Okay, and possibly for you as well, you need to increase the size of the character as opposed to the skull. Okay, so leave the skull the same size, increase this character so that her foot can be on the other side of the skull like it is on this one because this knee's broken and your foot doesn't do that. Okay. Let's see. Good work though. Good work. Okay, here, let's take a look at this. This is looking great. Very good job. But your base is dynameshed in an octagonal form because you never separated the dirt from the base. So you might have to redo that. Okay, and I just showed Caleb how to do it in less than 3 minutes. So go back to the previous critique and it'll show you how to do this real quick. Okay. Other than that, the impression of this looks nice and old. This needs a little bit more finesse, a little bit more organic, lumpy lumps, right? And then possibly have it trail down because it looks like it's just growing on open area, which is in between the teeth. So you need to kind of give it a feeling that's coming from the inside of the mouth as opposed to just growing on the teeth. Okay. I'm liking all this vein work. I like how it's got plateaus on this. This is looking really good. Keep up this shape language right here. This is looking really good. All these bumps, they're very subtle. They're not too aggressive. They look great. This is too flat. They just look too uniform. I would, whenever you're using your nano, make sure you have height variance and you have size variance above 1, right? So above 1, so that it's a little bit more organic because you can see like all of these are the most uniform growing flowers I've ever seen in my life. Okay. Also, you might want to mask an area, extract it, and then use your move brush and then pull it down, and then you can get kind of like a moss feeling on this. All right, and just make sure that it looks believable. All right. Alternatively, you can just duplicate all these vines, grab a section, delete hidden, and then make this part your moss and just grow it out. Make sure you Dynamesh it before you start sculpting so that closes holes. Okay. Dynamesh before you start. Okay. So you can mask, extract, sculpt, or you can duplicate, get sections, delete hidden, and then re-Dynamesh. Okay. Other than that, this is looking really good. I'm liking this direction. We just need to work on the flowers. Separate the dirt. The dirt and the vines should be separate. That way you can work on them independently. Because now if you need to move this into the ground and then have it come back out, you're not going to be able to do that quickly. Because if this is separated, all I got to do is get my move brush and boop, and just bring it down. But you're going to have to re-sculpt all of that and then do the dirt over it and all this. Okay, so it's always important to keep things separate and not put them all together until we're done. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Copy image. Okay, so same things. This is looking pretty good, but it feels very flat. Okay, so I showed David, I think 4 or 5 critiques ago. If you want to go back, you'll see how I create this flower in less than 2 minutes. Okay, so use the method that I showed you and redo this because this all looks jumbled up. Okay, your face is probably too thin. Make sure it's a bit thicker from front to back. Okay, but everything else is looking good. Yeah, here's a flower. Copy image right here. So these things, we're not going to be able to get away with just sculpting these things. They're a very specific shape. And again, I create this entire flower from beginning, the parts of this flower, including the petal workflow that I would suggest you follow if you want the highest grade. Okay. Alrighty. Good job. All right. So we are moving to section 2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to restart this recording so that we can section it off. Be right back. Well, for those that are in this class right now, make sure all these things that I've mentioned are done on Tuesday. Okay. If you feel you need to meet more often than we are right now, feel free to message me and let me know, and we'll schedule a time or something. And if enough people need that extra instruction, we'll just create an extra class. It's not a problem. It's just this week I kind of wanted to keep everything nice and easy while you are transitioning over, getting your computer parts, installing things, getting used to being at home all day, every day, and going crazy and all that stuff. So this week's a little easy, but we will ramp up back into the type of production that we were having before. And of course, the homework that was turned in, if you turned it in, you get 100. If you didn't turn anything in, unfortunately, I cannot really give you anything. Okay, so for those that turned in homework, automatic 100. And I appreciate you going through, staying in communication with all the forums and all that stuff, and with your instructors and all the processes that need to go through to make sure you have Zbrush and Maya and everything on your computer. And for those that are actually buying new computers as well, like I totally understand all this stuff is going on. You do need to communicate with me because I can only assume so much. So if you're having a super hard time getting these programs and everything, and there's no way you're going to get it done, then you need to let me know, or else I'm just going to grade accordingly unless you communicate with me. Okay, so thank you to section 1. We're going to get to section 2 in the next video.